Hi and welcome back. So obesity is currently defined using a person's body mass index, also known as BMI. This is calculated using the formula weight in kilograms divided by the square of height in meters. But the risk to someone's health and their well-being is not determined by weight, and therefore BMI as a standalone measure cannot be a logical choice. This latest study, published in The Lancet, sets out how having a larger body shouldn't mean you're diagnosed with clinical obesity. This kind of diagnosis should depend on the level and the location of the body fat and whether that body fat is associated with specific health problems. But what is wrong with BMI? Well, the risk of ill health depends on the relative percentage of fat, bone and muscle making up a person's body weight, as well as where that fat is actually stored. Obesity, as we know, is linked to many common diseases, especially age-related diseases, such as type 2 diabetes, heart disease, fatty liver disease, and also osteoarthritis. Athletes with a relatively high muscle mass, for example, may also have a higher BMI. Even when that athlete has a higher BMI, their higher weight is due to excess muscle rather than excess fatty tissue. People who carry their excess fatty tissue around their waist are at the greatest risk of health problems associated with obesity. Some athletes have a BMI that places them in the obese category. Fat stored deep in the abdomen and around the internal organs can release damaging molecules into the blood. These can then cause problems all over the body. But BMI alone does not tell us whether a person has health problems related to excess body fat. People with excess body fat don't always have a BMI over 30, meaning they're not investigated then for health problems that are associated with having excess body fat. So this might occur in a very tall person or someone who tends to store their body fat in the abdomen, but who is of healthy weight. On the other hand, others who aren't athletes but have excess fat may also have a high BMI but no associated health problems. BMI is therefore an imperfect tool to help us diagnose obesity. So what is this new study's definition of obesity? So the goal of the Lancet Diabetes and Endocrinology Commission on the definition and diagnosis of clinical obesity was to develop an approach to the definition and diagnosis. The Commission, established in 2022 and led from King's College London, has brought together 56 experts on aspects of obesity, including people who have lived with the experience. The Commission's definition and new diagnosis criteria shifts focus away from BMI alone. It incorporates other measurements, such as waist circumference, to confirm an excess or unhealthy distribution of body fat. They define two categories of obesity based on objective signs and symptoms of poor health due to excess body fat. First of all is preclinical obesity. Now, a person with clinical obesity has both signs and symptoms of ongoing organ dysfunction and or difficulty with day-to-day activities such as bathing, going to the toilet and even getting dressed. There are 18 diagnostic criteria for clinical obesity in adults and 13 in children and adolescents. These include breathlessness caused by the effect of obesity on the lungs, obesity-induced heart failure, raised blood pressure, and fatty liver disease, and abnormalities in bones and joints that limit movement just in children. A person with preclinical obesity has high levels of body fat that are not causing any illness. People with preclinical obesity do not have any evidence of reduced tissue or organ function due to that obesity and can complete day-to-day activities unhindered. However, people with preclinical obesity are generally at higher risk of developing diseases such as heart disease, some cancers, and also type 2 diabetes. So what does this mean for obesity treatment? The second category is clinical obesity. Clinical obesity is a disease requiring access to effective healthcare. For those who have clinical obesity, the focus of healthcare should be on improving the health problems that's caused by that obesity. People should be offered evidence-based treatment options after discussion with their healthcare practitioner. Treatments will include management of obesity-associated complications and may include specific obesity treatments aimed at decreasing their fat mass, such as support for behavioural change around diet, physical activity, sleep, and also their screen time. Also, obesity management medications to help reduce these people's appetite, and/or medications to help lower weight and improve health outcomes in areas such as blood glucose levels and also blood pressure, and possibly bariatric surgery to treat obesity or reduce weight-related health complications. This new study also asked the question, should preclinical obesity actually be treated? For those with preclinical obesity, healthcare should be about risk reduction and prevention of health problems related to the condition of obesity. Now, this may require health counselling, including support for changes in behaviour, and then monitoring this over time. Depending on a person's individual risk, such as family history of disease, level of body fat, and changes to that over time, they may opt for one of the obesity treatments that I've just mentioned. Classifying people who don't have illness from those who already have an ongoing illness will enable personalised approaches to obesity prevention, management and treatment with more appropriate and cost-effective allocation of scarce resources. So, what happens next? Will these new criteria for the diagnosis of clinical obesity actually get adopted? So let me know what you think in the comments below. Will this study induce changes to national and international clinical practice guidelines? Or will it be easier for MDs, etc., to keep using BMI, a formula that was invented in the 1830s, nearly 200 years ago, by a Belgian mathematician who was not a member of the medical community? Taking the new definitions of obesity into account, I think that people with obesity or those who have larger bodies should expect personalised, evidence-based assessments and advice then, which are going to be free from stigma and blame. On average, a doctor gets somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes to see a patient. Will doctors now take the time to ask more searching questions and then offer lifestyle changes before just dealing in drugs? Now, I've had 2 doctors that I can remember of look at my LDL level and then ignoring all other cardiovascular risk health markers such as ApoA1, ApoB, C-reactive protein, blood pressure, and HbA1c, and then go straight to saying, Vince, you need to be on a statin. This new way of categorization will take time to work out, a lot longer than just looking at a BMI score and saying to the patient, you now need to be on Ozempic. So, will medical communities around the world embrace the results of this latest study? And will they push for changes to their obesity policies? Or will they stick with the ancient BMI formula that now has got a fast-track option of prescribing drugs like Ozempic and Mounjaro? Also, let me know, do you think I'm being far too negative or gloomy when it comes to how I think MDs will react to the possible change in the status quo? Also bear in mind that rates of age-related diseases such as diabetes, metabolic disorders, cancer, cardiovascular disease, etc. are, using the current guidelines, not coming down at any speed whatsoever.